Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 89 of the Canberra Football Show. Joining me, as always, is Michael Georgeski. And we do have Jeremy Magan back for NPLW in the next segment. Michael, how's it going today? And big match for the Matildas, tonight as we're recording. By tomorrow, everyone will know what the result is. Let's hope the girls can get the win, but it's going to be tough.
Certainly is going to be tough, especially what they put forward in their last game, which obviously was a shock result to everyone, and it's put them in a position now where, you know, they pretty much have to go in with the mindset of winning the game in order to go through. So it's going to be a very interesting and compelling game, to say the least. There's a lot on the line, and obviously the pressure of, you know, this being your last group game, the potential to go through to the knockout phase in your home country. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors going into it for the Matildas, but hopefully they can pull it off and they can keep their World Cup dream alive here in Australia. And aside from that, some great footballing action over the weekend as well, Matt, across the three leagues. And first things first, we'll kick it off with NPL action, where we start with Canberra Olympic 1, O'Connor Knights 2, Matt. So Popovic on the score sheet for the hosts Olympic on this occasion. And for O'Connor, it was Ihegi and Kresic in the second half. So O'Connor Knights, yet again, Matt, they displayed their fine form this season in yet another match. They get another 3 points. And at this expense, it was at the hands of Olympic suffering defeat. So, like I said, Popovic gave Olympic the lead in the 27th minute to score his 10th goal, Matt, of the season. So he's actually having a very good individual campaign, and he's a big reason why Olympic are where they are in the league standings. And it also puts him equal third in the competition for top goal scorer. So again, it just further highlights how good of a season he is having up front for Olympic. But obviously, there's two halves of football, Matt. Even though O'Connor went behind 1-0 and that was the score at the break, they came out in the second half and showed great fight back. And they leveled the score to make it 1-1 just 5 minutes after the restart through Ihegi with a nice left-footed curler. I believe that was his 8th goal of the season. So another player that is sort of thriving in the forward areas for their club this season. He's having a very good season for O'Connor Knights, and they kept the pressure up immediately, Matt. And 3 minutes later, it was 2-1 to O'Connor. So having been 1-0 down at the break, in the space of 8 second half minutes, they managed to turn the game around in their favour and make it 2-1. And it was a deflected effort from Kresic from outside the box. I think it hit Lasse Ulrich as it deflected past the goalkeeper and into the back of the net to make it 2-1, and that would ultimately prove to be enough to seal the 3 points for the O'Connor Knights in this game. And it means that they maintain their status as league leaders by 4 points on 36 points, Matt, while Olympic remain in third position on the table. So not all doom and gloom for Olympic. Certainly, they still stay in the top 4. It's still been a really, really good season. We mentioned a few weeks ago the sort of dry patch that they had sort of endured, and results were a little bit hard to come by, but their performances are starting to turn around, and they had certainly put in a good performance in this game. It just ultimately wasn't enough, as you know, when you run into a side like the O'Connor Knights, who are just so high on confidence at the moment with the football that they're playing, and it was always going to be a tough ask when you run into a team like that. But as I mentioned before we move on to the next match, Matt, still a really good performance from Canberra Olympic, and they're still third in the table. So finals football still very well looking like that's going to happen for them this season, with the season closing down to its end for finals. Matt, our next match, tight contest this one as well, but the hosts came out victorious.
Yeah, and Tigers, it was definitely a victory that they needed in this one, and they got that victory to keep level with the other teams, as we'll mention a bit at the end. But to kick this one off, Tigers were very close to opening the scoring 3 minutes into the contest as Riley Angelo Sante ran on the end of the ball and forced a save from Nick Teleski, who pushed it wide and hit the post. 3 minutes later, Tigers did get themselves on the score sheet thanks to Sam Whittier, who put in a really nice header from literally a perfect cross from the corner, dipped for him, and he headed it home. Tigers scored their second only 5 minutes later from the penalty spot. Nick Teneski was the one to convert that chance to give his side a 2-0 lead. The challenge that led to that penalty was, I believe it was Babin Poidel, essentially pushed and shoved Sam Whittier in the box to call for that penalty. Despite the lightning start from Tigers, Wanderers were determined to fight back and half the deficit in the 34th minute. A nice passage of play led to Harry Truman delivering a great ball over the top for Patrick Shaw, who neatly sort of dinked the keeper for the finish. Really nice goal here. Wanderers were agonizingly close to securing the first points of the season as the captain, Doug, I'm just going to say W because I'm not going to, I'll butcher that last name, saw his effort on goal, beat Jacob Cole, however, hit the far post and then ricocheted and hit the other post. So at this point, Wanderers in that sort of mini half-second moment thought they'd scored a winner deep into, not a winner, sorry, equalized deep into injury time. However, it was not meant to be. Despite that effort and chances, Wanderers are still without their first points of the campaign and remain 8 points behind Tuggies in 7th, and the clock is ticking for them to make up points. A crucial victory for Tigers, though, as they secure their first win after 2 straight losses. It also keeps them ahead of Olympic by 3 points in second place. So as I mentioned at the top of the table, you can see why this was a crucial victory for the Tigers. They still trail O'Connor, though, by 4 points. So, Michael, next up is another team that got a victory that they needed as they're trying to keep pace with the top 4 and trying to get themselves in that.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. And that was Canberra, Croatia, a 4-1 victory away from home against Tuggeranong United. So Hislop was on the score sheet for the home team. Dominici with a double, Greco and Wagga on the score sheet for the away side in this contest. It was a very good start to this game for Canberra, Croatia, as Dominici scored a 21-minute double to put Canberra, Croatia in a good stead to open this match, Matt, as his 2 goals in the opening 21 minutes gave Canberra, Croatia a really good lead at the interval. Tuggeranong United, though, they started the second half in the worst possible way, conceding a 3rd goal pretty much straight away after the restart. Greco scored a nice header across goal after some great individual work by Barach to create the chance on that occasion. Tuggeranong managed to get a goal back through Hislop after a bullet of a finish at the near post, but it would be Croatia that capped off a good performance and scored the last goal of the game and their 4th in the contest through Wagga. After he did well, Matt, to close the keeper down, which led to the ball sort of ricocheting, and he managed to collect the ball, drive towards the box, and finish pretty confidently to score the 4th goal of the game and confirm a relatively cruisy 3 points for Canberra, Croatia. So in this instance, they still remain 6th on the table, but they're only 2 points off Monaro. But they have played 1 more game than them, Matt. So it's going to really come down to the wire between particularly those 2 teams to see who can sort of claim that last spot, if you will. I mean, teams can still sort of drop out at this stage, given how close the competition is at the moment, particularly around the top 4. So Canberra, Croatia is certainly right there in the mix, and we'll see sort of what happens and what develops over the next few weeks to see if they can creep in there. But Tuggeranong, they remain 7th on the table on 8 points, Matt. So as you briefly mentioned, West Canberra Wanderers are still rooted at the bottom of the table without any points. So for Tuggeranong United, they just have to hang on that little bit more to the point where it'll be confirmed that they will avoid relegation and stay in NPL football for next season. Matt, do you want to get into our last game of NPL action, which actually had started, but then due to sort of really bizarre sort of circumstances, one that no one could have really predicted. I know it's happened in the past at the stadium, but certainly what we weren't expecting at Riverside Stadium.
Well, no, that's right. So if you're only just watching it, like if you didn't see that match last year, it was a midweek match, I believe. Russ and I were doing that one. I think it was in 2021. The lights went out, but that was only in the last 3 minutes of the game. But it literally went out on the season because that was the day, I think, before. It was on a Wednesday, and the Thursday they announced the second lockdown in the ACT / New South Wales as well. So little did we know it was literally putting a light. The lights went off at the end of the season because that would end it in the end. So it has happened at Riverside before, but it hasn't happened in a couple of years. So the lights went out half time for this one. So it'll be interesting to see whether they have to, because it didn't play. It didn't play the whole 3 quarters. I think it's 3 quarters or 2/3 of the match need to be played, and then I think they can deem it just to play that remaining 30 minutes or whatever. So it didn't play that. So it'll be interesting to see whether they have to replay the whole match or whether, since it's 0-0, they only have to play the second half. But they'll have to, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that and when they play that. Obviously, that'll need to be a midweek catch up. But regardless, the first half was played, and the best chance of that first half came to Gungahlin as Jordan Thurtell saved Sam Haptamarian's shot, and the loose ball fell to Misko Naumoski, who hit the ball wide from 4 yards. So as we mentioned, only first half in that one, either the remaining 45 minutes or the whole match will be replayed at some point, as that could be, it already is a crucial match for the top 4, but it could even be more crucial depending if they play that sort of near the end of the season. All right, Michael, what are our fixtures for this weekend in round 17? And just before that, on the Friday night, there is another big round of 32 Australia Cup match that Canberra Croatia will be playing in.
Yeah, so Matt, Australian Cup round of 32 fixture, it will be Mount Druitt Town Rangers against Canberra Croatia, Friday night, August 4th, 7:30 p.m. at Popondetta Park. So Canberra Croatia on the road in this round of 32 fixture. What a great opportunity for them to stake their claim in this cup competition and see how far they can go. Matt, we talk about sort of every year when the Canberra representative side reaches this stage of the Australian Cup, as it's called now, and the FFA Cup, what it was named and labelled previously, to see how far they can go and get on a bit of a run. So hopefully that can be the case for Canberra Croatia. So best of luck to Canberra Croatia in this match upcoming, and hopefully they do really well. We obviously hope they get the win on behalf of Canberra. So we'll wait and see how that result pans out in not so long time at all. It's approaching very, very fast, August 4th. But nevertheless, we'll go on to the NPL round 17 fixtures, which is West Canberra Wanderers up against Monaro Panthers, Saturday, August 5th, 2 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. Tuggeranong United will play O'Connor Knights, Saturday, August 5th, 5 p.m. at Canberra 201. Gungahlin United will then play host to Canberra Olympic, Sunday, August 6th, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2, before finally we round things off with a cracker. It's going to be Canberra Croatia up against Tigers FC, Tuesday, August 8th, 6:30 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. So a couple of big fixtures there for Canberra Croatia in the Australian Cup, and then to back it up 4 days later against Tigers at home. So some very, very big games on the horizon for Canberra Croatia, and obviously for the NPL in general as well.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our NPLW segment of the show, and it is great to welcome back Jeremy Magan. I'm sure he's still buzzing off that emphatic and very tense victory in the end for France over Brazil in the Women's World Cup to put them at the top of the table, if I'm not mistaken, after that draw that they got at the start of the campaign. Jeremy, how's it going today? Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, great win, and they played really well. It's probably one of the two best games of the competition, of course, as everyone has seen. But yeah, good to see that they have now their fate in their hand. They're basically through, unless something really weird happens against Panama and the other game between Jamaica and Brazil. So good to see. Hopefully, the same fate awaits Matilda. I mean, I guess by the time the episode is out, we will know the fate of the Matilda.
That's it. And let's get into NPLW, a game that Jeremy and I did on the weekend. Belconnen United 1-0 victory over Canberra Olympic. Another top four clash this weekend, as it was first v third heading into this one. Olympic off the back of beating Croatia, and Belco off the back of their first competitive match in a few weeks and lost to Gungahlin the week prior, just to set the stage for this one. The first half ended goalless, where both sides sort of, cancel each other out in the end. Neither side would budge defensively. Belco probably had the best chance over the first half, as Talia Backhouse's free kick struck the crossbar. The second half was similar, but Belco started the brighter of the two with a couple of chances early on. Olympic were just about to make a couple of subs, and what ended up being a setup change as well. As they were waiting at the halfway line, just before Belco struck their goal, Hattie Cram grabbed the ball, ran wide to the left, sort of edge of the box, and cracked a nice dipping shot across goal and across Janet King into the back of the net, or maybe it was at the near post. I can't remember. Jeremy will tell us there. Terrific goal here, though, nonetheless. Hattie Cram, she shocked Olympic and arguably created something out of nothing, I believe we said on commentary there. And it ended up being the only goal of the match. The loss for Olympic means they dropped to tied second with Gungahlin, but trailing Croatia by 1 point, but they still have that game in hand. Belco, on the other hand, a pivotal victory for them, as they're only 2 points behind first place Croatia, while currently in fourth, but they still also have those two matches in hand. So of those top four contenders, so safe to say that Belco do have the advantage at the moment over them. An extremely close race to the top four, as I mentioned there. Jeremy, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, it was a great game that we called on Saturday afternoon, and I think it was at the near post, that shot from Tikram that I think eventually I probably didn't even call live because we didn't realize what was going on in the box at that moment. But it was a good result for Belconnen. It felt a little bit like not a disappointing game, that's harsh, but like a game that just took a while to get into pieces, and it's probably credit to those two teams and the defensive work that they are doing. Every time either team was trying to build up something, there's so much intensity defensively in front of them that it was really hard to break lines and to create something. We said it during the commentary, right? It had to take either a defensive mistake or something special for a goal to happen. It was a bit of a weird, scrappy moment when Carnegie cleared the ball, and then Heinmarsh is kind of happy to send it back to Hattie Cram, and then it kind of looked like Aitolu had her, like she had her the whole game until then, but Hattie Cram, created something special there and was able to keep the game winner. Not a lot after that for Olympic to try and answer, even though they kind of threw the sink at it with trying to get every players up front. They just weren't able to beat, again, a very strong Belconnen defense, and like we said, the two best defense facing each other. What you expect is some solid defensive performance, and that's exactly what we had at the table. It's pretty interesting that after winning against one of the best teams, Belconnen is still fourth on a top four, but as you said, 2 points between those four teams, and Belconnen United, with those two games in hand, virtually are at the top right now. So the fate is in their hands. I'm sure every team is happy to come into the end of the season with their fate in their hands, and that's Scott Conlon and his troops right now. They just got Kira Bobin back. We saw Steffi Legends playing with reserves as well. Sofia Paliwoda, who played in the midfield, and Maddie Steinaker, who played in centre back. It's like it was the regular starting 11 that played all season that was on. So it's a lot of strength, and we've said several times that the Gunners probably had the most depth. I think Belconnen has a pretty good depth right now. That team that young team, and nevertheless is playing together for a while. So a very good game at McKellar, and it feels like if Belconnen plays this way, and then you add the speed of Kira Bobin when she's back in form, they feel really hard to stop the Devils.
It certainly will be an interesting top four race there. And talking about that, the team that is currently top at the moment, Canberra, Croatia, Michael, suffering a draw in the end, which could be crucial because they do not have a match in hand. So they'll have to wait and see how the other teams do as we close in on that end of the season.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. Canberra, Croatia and Canberra United Academy played out a 2-2 draw. So Palombi and Bernie on the score sheet for them. For CUA, it was Nash and Cochrane. So it was a great game, a fantastic effort, may I add, from the Canberra United Academy in this match. They played really, really well. But the first goal in this match was from Palombi to extend her lead at the top of the NPLW goal scorers chart with a great finish at the end of the first period. But like I mentioned, it was a good performance from CUA, and that was really on display, particularly in the second half of this game. They came out and they played very, very well, and they equalised through Nash in the 71st minute after a scramble in the box, where she then found the ball at her feet and produced a pretty good finish. And then a few minutes later, in the 73rd minute, they took the lead after a great team move was capped off with a fine finish from Cochrane. This was a really, really well worked goal from CUA. You can sort of see how talented those young players are, particularly when they put together periods of play like we saw with that goal as a great example. And in the next instance, Croatia equalised with less than 10 minutes left through Bernie to end the match all square. So all in all, it was a very entertaining clash, but I think the big sort of takeaway here is how good Canberra United Academy were, particularly in that second half, to hold Canberra, Croatia to a draw, but obviously they were that far away from getting a victory themselves. Jeremy, what are your thoughts sort of on this match and their league sort of positions in general? Because I know that CUA remain in fifth place. They're 9 points off Belconnen, and so they're obviously not too far away, but the matches are ticking down now before finals time, and you've got, like Matt mentioned, Canberra, Croatia up there at the top of the table. What were your thoughts on this contest, Jeremy?
Yeah, it was a very interesting game to watch. CUA is 11 points of Belconnen, so it's even harder. But you're right in the sense of the way they play. Kind of look like they should be closer. Obviously, they've missed opportunities down the line that put them in the position that they are. You know, a team has never deserved the moniker more than CUA when we talk about the best of the rest. They are definitely dominating that bottom four, and they're the one team that is able, as we see it week in, week out, to rival the best teams in the competition. They're still a young team learning, obviously. But I think this weekend's game, it definitely will feel like a wasted opportunity, I think, for Canberra, Croatia. They had so many chances to open the score early on, and they tried everything they could, and they were not able to. And then when you score just before halftime, you might feel like you've done the hardest, and that you just have to try and secure that. But it's not to say that they were not put in danger. I mean, they're lucky that they have such a great keeper as Chloe Lincoln, who again had to do a few saves against the academy, because as you said very rightly, Michael, the academy plays well. And if I think when I was watching the game, I kind of tried to see when it was the first time the academy actually crossed the half line with the ball in feet, and I think it took them 14 minutes bar kickoff to try to finally bring the ball back into the Canberra Croatia side. But for 14 minutes, they just defended admirably, and it's also part of their training to learn how to sort of like stand under pressure, and that's what they did. And then when on the second half, you can find a couple of lucky breaks and make the team who maybe plays too comfortably pay for their lack of finishing, or you might as well. And if you can do it twice in 2 minutes, happy days for Massimo and Avedugol and their players, really. Canberra, Croatia, at the end of the day, is probably happy that they're able to get their equalizer finally. 10 players from there on for the academy and Canberra, Croatia not able to get the lead is probably something that is not going to sit well with Zoran Blavinic. You're supposed to be the team like this, and then that team gets a red card and you're still not able to get the win. It feels like a missed opportunity for Canberra, Croatia. It also feels a little bit like, maybe a wake-up call for the reigning premiers, because if they want to get silverware between now and the end of the season, they're going to have to be a bit more, a bit more reckless in their finishing, a bit more lethal up front. And when you have a player like Brindabella, we know that it's coming. You just have to make sure that she hits home again in the games that matters further down the line.
Absolutely. Matt, who is our next match for NPLW?
Our next match is a big win for Tuggeranong United, 3-1 over ANUW. Tuggeranong got off to a good start in this one as they opened the scoring 14 minutes into the first stanza. Rainey Niles dinked a nice ball into the box for Samantha Wood, who controlled it well and neatly turned her marker before placing it in the back of the net. 11 minutes later, it was Wood again, a free kick from the right side, which was struck as it dipped over the top of the keeper. Really nice goal here. Go check that one out from Wood for her brace of the match. Tuggies were determined to catapult themselves off the bottom of the ladder as they made it 3-0, 22 minutes into the second half. A corner from Tuggies and an attempted clearance from Eaglesman resulted in an own goal. Just before stoppage time, ANU got a consolation goal, but what a consolation goal it was. Ailish McDonough made a darting run and cracked a beauty of a shot from just outside the box into the top left corner, top bins, as they say. Tough loss for ANUW as they dropped to 7th place, suffering their 4th consecutive loss as well after this one. A massive victory for Tuggies, though, as they leapfrog both Wanderers and ANUW from last to 6th place. They lead ANUW by 1 point and Wanderers by 2. Jeremy, we've sort of mentioned in the past, actually, I think we mentioned in midweek when we did the Tuggies match, that they've had quite a few opportunities this season. Either they were leading and they ended up getting a draw, or leading and they ended up losing in the end, or just they've missed a couple opportunities to get a victory to get themselves either closer to the closer to 7th or 6th, or to leapfrog them. They made the most out of this opportunity though, and now they're 6th.
They did, and I think it's deserved when you see the performance that they can put through. I mean, how good has been Sammy Wood for them since she joined. Like, she feels like she scored on every single game, and obviously we've seen the extent of her talent this weekend. That first goal, the control, the turnaround, the shot. Like, if a player can play like this, he can be the starting striker in any team in the WNPL. So she deserves what comes to her, because obviously she works hard and she works well. With the Tuggies, they like to play against the ANU. Obviously, Tuggeranong, they beat them a couple of weeks ago in that game that wasn't a game that ended up being a game that we talk every time with each other now, Matt. But it's good that Paulo Romero are seeing his team able to beat an ANU team that at the beginning was seen a little bit like a dark horse, that getting some very good results. That is a team that knows how to play together and that plays really well. It's definitely not an easy team to beat. So I think it's very encouraging for Tuggeranong what we're seeing in that tail end of the season. I think there's no mistake in saying that the talent of Rainy Niles was great, and Abby Herman and Sarah Matthews were maybe unrefined diamonds, but they're solid. And you got Zoe Terry, but when you add a player like Sammy Wood, it's almost like the piece that was missing to make sure everything connects properly. So it's great that they're finding good results. It's basically the race to avoid the wooden spoon, right? And like you said, leapfrogging 2 spots at the end of the season is pretty important. For ANU, it's somewhat disappointing, just because we know what they're capable of. We've seen them playing so well against the best team, but maybe they have a tendency of sort of like leveling to whoever they face, and maybe they forget that probably they had to bounce back from that loss 2 weeks ago from against Tuggeranong and bring a bit more to the game. I'm sure it's still the first season for them, so I'm sure they're just learning and seeing what they have to do to be able to get more consistent results. In the meantime, well done to Tuggeranong, well done to Paulo Romero and this girl.
Yeah, indeed. Well done to Tuggeranong. Well-deserved victory there. Michael, what is our last match of the round? A big win for Gungahlin as they keep pace with that top four.
That's right, Matt. Huge win for Gungahlin, 2-0 over West Canberra Wanderers. Brown with an own goal and Oliver with a goal in the second half. So, like I said, it was a big win for Gungahlin in this one against a resilient West Canberra outfit, I must say. It was a nightmare start for the visiting outfit, though, as they conceded an own goal in the opening minute of play. So, right off the bat, it's not the sort of start that you want in a game of football. But since that moment, though, West Canberra were a lot more solid throughout the game. Gunners were unlucky not to score more than the 2 goals that they managed to produce in the game as they struck the woodwork a few times during the course of the match. But it was Oliver who capped off the win in the 60th minute with a nice goal. So, yeah, a very good result for Gungahlin United in this match, especially in the context of their top 4 status. And, as for West Canberra Wanderers, it's been more of a struggle season for them compared to what they produced, obviously, last season. But nevertheless, it was a solid effort from them against a Gungahlin United team that has, for the majority of the season, played pretty well. So, Jeremy, what were your thoughts on this match? Like I said, it was an important win for Gungahlin, and despite it being a tough loss for West Canberra yet again, they managed to make a good account of themselves.
Yeah, they're playing better and better, West Canberra, but you're gonna have an upset like you had against Olympic every single week. Unfortunately, for them, Gungahlin had a job to do. It was to confirm that great success against Belconnen last week by beating 2 teams that were supposedly lesser than them this week between Tuggeranong and West Canberra, and they did just that, and that's very important, I think, for Andrew Woodman and for his team to know that they can do that. They have played more games than Olympic and Belconnen, so technically they could be 4th of the table once all those games are played. But they're still there, and they're still very close to be able to fight for the top places, and they're going to, it looks like, I was looking at the schedule a little bit, it looks like they almost have the easiest schedule out of everybody else. They're only playing, I think, 2 more of the big teams until the end of the season, and could play in their advantage. But they just have to keep doing what they're doing, and when you can win, when you can score, as early as 20 seconds in the first goal, and then when you can confirm that quickly as well, obviously that helps a lot. I think this Gungahlin team plays really well together, and I also think they know how to manage their advantage when they're up there, and they can protect their defense as we've seen this week, and it doesn't change much. So it's good for Andrew Woodman. It is a little bit cruel, for West Canberra when you know how well they can play, and when the talent in this play has finally started to bloom. I'm thinking about Alice Jensen, just always so hard for them. But when you concede so early, and when somebody who's brought you so much experience since the month of June, Ellen Brown, who unfortunately scores an own goal, yeah, it's almost unfair, but unfortunately sometimes it is what it is, and it is a learning curve for those teams. For us, the neutrals, it just gives us an amazing top 4 to follow, and a pretty solid battle as well to avoid finishing last. So we'll take it. I think, like we said twice now this week, Matt, on commentary, I think every single team is actually getting better this season, and even though there's such a large gap the table between the top 4, 5, and the bottom 3, I think we've seen some very, very strong outfits all season. So if we can just keep going like this for the next 5 games, we'll be very happy to keep following those 2 teams. They play well. They are at each other end of the table, but I'm sure we'll see more nice games now and then.
Matt, do you want to get into our NPLW round 17 fixtures before we finish off our NPLW segment?
Yeah, and we kick off the round in round 17 with a massive matchup at McKellar Park. Belconnen United versus Canberra, Croatia, Saturday, August 5th, 3 p.m., like I said, at McKellar Park. Then we have Canberra Olympic against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, August 6th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor enclosed. Then we have ANUW against Gungahlin United, Sunday, August 6th, 3 p.m. at ANU South Oval. And then last up, Canberra United Academy against West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, August 6th, 3 p.m. at the Hawker Football Centre. All right, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. As always, any last words before you head off?
Thanks for having me. No, maybe a quick shout out to Nicole Zaloka, who was on comms with Russ Gibbs for Canberra, Croatia, Canberra United Academy. It's always great to have new voices on commentary, and even better when it's players that have skin in the game. And Nicole Zaloka is one that lives a lot on the pitch, so it was great to see her also commentating on the game on Sunday. Thanks for having me again.
As always, thanks, Jeremy, and best of luck to France, and best of luck to Matilda tonight, more importantly.
Yeah, 1 hour to kick off.
Matt, we'll move on to our CPL segment. Do you want to kick things off with the first match, which was an astonishing result for the home team?
Yeah, Queanbeyan stepping up big in this one after their draw last week. I believe it was a draw last week. So they needed a win here, and they got one if they're to keep their promotion hopes alive. 3-2 victory over Yoogali at High Street at home. Queanbeyan took the momentum heading into halftime as the Argentine Nico Abbott opened the scoring in the 44th minute. Abbott struck again at a crucial time in the 66th minute, of the contest to make it 2-0. And then Abbott struck once again to seemingly win the contest for Queanbeyan, making the lead 3-0 in the 79th minute. The Argentine has been in really good form. This hat-trick means he has now scored 13 goals for the CPL campaign, putting him in tied second place on the top of the goal scoring, in second place on the goal scoring charts. Yoogali, though, despite being 3-0 down, weren't going to head back to Griffith without a fight and proceeded to score 2 goals in 5 minutes, giving Queanbeyan a bit of a nervy ending there. The goals came courtesy of Joe Priest, and then CPL top goal scorer Darren Bailey scored from the penalty spot. The score ended 3-2, though, in Queanbeyan's favour. This loss means that Yoogali are now 4 points above Queanbeyan, with the latter having a match in hand on the league leaders. Massive win from Queanbeyan, well-deserved considering the 3-0 lead that they did have, and did well to close that out when Yoogali scored 2 quick goals in 5 minutes. As we all know, momentum can sway quickly in football in that regard, so did well to see that one out. And as we mentioned before, this win now makes Queanbeyan's upcoming matches even more important, especially that match in hand. We're not sure when that one's going to be, but it will be against Wagga, probably some midweek fixture they'll have to sort out there. So we said last week that it was sort of safe to say that it would have been tough to catch Yoogali if they won this matchup. So now there's certainly hope from a Queanbeyan point of view that they can keep pushing forward. But they'll need to be in really good form at the end of the season. As we know, Yoogali don't drop points often, and they definitely don't drop points often at home. They haven't dropped a single point at home, as we've mentioned so far this season. So I think we're in for a really, really interesting end to the season. So there's a lot to look forward to there. And Michael, not only is the top of the table race really interesting to look forward to, also that top 4 race, as Belconnen have cemented themselves back into the top 4 with a emphatic victory on the weekend.
Yeah, 4-0, Matt, away from home against Canberra Juventus. So Borgard, Wells, Kemp and Dickinson on the score sheet for the away team. Belconnen opened the scoring through Borgard in the 29th minute into the contest at Ainsley, which is also the first goal of the campaign for him. So a bit of a personal accomplishment there for him. Belconnen started the second half very strongly as they scored 2 goals in the opening 14 minutes, courtesy of veteran midfielder Dustin Wells and Abraham Kemp getting on the score sheet as well. Both of them scoring in the 54th and 59th minutes respectively. Belconnen rounded off an emphatic attacking performance away from home with a goal inside. Sorry, 2 minutes from stoppage time from Bailey Dickinson. So a great performance from Belconnen United away from home, Matt. This is the sort of performance that they would have been hoping for coming into this match, albeit against a Canberra Juventus side that obviously aren't high up on the table, but they're a very tough opposition to play against nevertheless. But for Canberra Juventus, it's a tough loss for them against a determined Belconnen United side. But despite the loss, they still remain 7th, 1 point ahead of White Eagles. However, they fall 9 points behind Yoogali in 6th. So an impressive display from Belconnen launches them not only into the top 4, Matt, but tied 3rd with Wagga. Wagga do have the edge on goal difference and have a match in hand. So this is also Belconnen's second win on the trot. So they've actually managed now to, get back-to-back wins and get a little bit of momentum going this season, because it's something that they've struggled for all season since they got relegated and the new season of the CPL competition started, because there was all the conversation about, well, are they going to come back up straight away, similar to what Tuggeranong did last season? But obviously this season has proved to be very tough for them. So for them to get back-to-back wins is a huge momentum boost for them. And like we said, it puts them inside the top 4. Matt, do you want to get into our next contest? A lot on the line for the home team in this match when you consider their position on the table and what's at stake potentially for them for all the wrong reasons come the end of the season. And unfortunately for them, it was a result that didn't go their way, but a good result for the visitors nevertheless.
Yeah, really good result for the Brindis here. 2-0. It keeps them in pace with the top 4, as I'll mention in a little bit. Brindis opened the scoring 31 minutes into this contest as a high ball from a free kick looped into the box. Ohio Asiki attempted to clear it with the header. However, it ended up dipping into the back of the net for an own goal. And a little side note, own goals in general in the CPL competition have made their presence this season, as there have been 9 own goals in total for the competition. Curtis Schaefer gave his side a 2-goal lead just before halftime as he received the ball out wide on the left from a dinked over ball over the top of the defense. Then he made a darting run inside the box, cut inside, and nicely placed it past the keeper at the far post. This was Schaefer's 8th goal of the CPL campaign. The second half ended goalless at Woden Park, with Brindis going out 2-0 winners. Another tough loss for White Eagles, as you mentioned before, Michael, who still remain on the bottom of the table, only by 1 point behind Juventus. But in terms of general form for White Eagles, they have not won a game in 4 games now. Big win for the Brindis, though, as they keep pace with the top 4. They only trail said top 4 by 2 points, and they trail ANU, who are in 5th place, by 1 point. So that top 4 race, as I mentioned at the top of the CPL segment, is really, really getting interesting now, as it did at the end of last season. So we look forward to an interesting end to the CPL in the top 4 in really all the races as we head into the final stages of the season. Talking about that top 4 race, Michael, we saw what was 3rd v 4th heading into this encounter, and now it's tied 3rd v 5th. What was the result of this one?
Yeah, so a draw 1-1 between ANU and Wagga City Wanderers. Sakari on the score sheet for ANU, and for the Wagga City Wanderers, it was Kadzola. So Wagga were the first to get themselves onto the score sheet in this encounter, as Morris Kadzola struck the back of the net for the away side to give themselves the lead. This is his 13th goal of the CPL campaign, Matt. So he's having a fantastic season, and he remains second on the goal scoring charts, 3 behind goal scoring leader Darren Bailey. However, ANU struck their equaliser in the 75th minute via Sachin Sakari to make it 1-1. This is his first goal of the CPL campaign. This goal would secure ANU a draw as this game ended 1-1. The result for both these teams, Matt, first for Wagga, it means they remain in third, but full 5 points behind Queanbeyan. But still, with a game in hand, it also means that Belconnen are now tied with them in third place. However, Wagga do have the edge on goal difference. And for ANU, failing to secure the win means they now drop out of the top 4. So big news there for all the wrong reasons for ANU. Trailing Belconnen by 1 point. They also only lead Brindis now by 1 point, right behind them in 6th. So if ANU don't manage to turn things around, it could get a little bit ugly for them, most definitely. Matt, do you want to get into the round 17 fixtures, please?
Yeah, so first up, we got the battle of the black and white stripes. Canberra Juventus against Wagga City Wanderers. Saturday, August 5th, 2:15 p.m. at Gissing Oval in Wagga. Then we have Queanbeyan City against ANU. Saturday, August 5th, 3 p.m. at High Street. Then we have Canberra White Eagles against Yoogali. Saturday, August 5th, 3 p.m. at Woden Park enclosed. And then Brindabella Blues against Belconnen United. Saturday, August 5th, 3 p.m. at Ipen Park in Corwell. So as mentioned, some very, very big matches there for the CPL as we are heading into the end of the season. And we've got 3 really close, interesting races in the whole of the table. That's it for us, Michael. A lot of football to look forward to, obviously, including the Women's World Cup, and then obviously the Australia Cup round of 32 match for Croatia. Plenty to look forward to there. Any last words before we sign off?
No, I mean, we've touched on all the big sort of topics, Matt. Obviously, wishing the Matildas good luck as we record this. Obviously, the game hasn't been played yet, but
it will by the time this goes out.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I guess we'll wait and see how everyone will react on Tuesday, most definitely, in terms of what the result will be. But nevertheless, good luck to the Matildas. Like I sort of mentioned at the top of the show, Matt, there's a lot to play for. Could prove to be a very big night in women's Australian football history. So I think it's important that the whole country obviously gets behind them. They want to see them do well and go far in this World Cup.
Yeah, of course. They need a win essentially to get through. They can maybe make it through on a draw, but there's things that need to go their way in that regard. So
you'd rather just get the win.
Yeah, that's it, right? And Canada need a win as well, so it's going to be important for everyone really in that regard. So there's a lot to play for. I'm sure it's going to be super tense, and I'm sure the entire country will get behind them. And as this comes out, everyone will know what has happened. So let's hope it's a win for the Matildas in that regard and not a group stage exit. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. As we mentioned, there's so much to look forward to in terms of Canberra football and Australia Cup and the World Cup all happening in this country, of course. So as always, everybody, enjoy the weekend and most importantly, enjoy the football.